Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies as we continue with part 16 of the Genius of Freemasonry by J.D. Buck. The real issues. America today is not only facing the most monumentous issue in her history, but the issue is one that cannot possibly be long evaded. It is imminent. This issue strikes at the very roots of the Republic and assails the principles upon which this government was founded. If an army of ironclad manned threatened our seaboard, a cry of alarm would be heard far and near, and vigilance and resentment would be found on every hand. If a regiment of soldiers had crossed our northern boundary, our government and people would not be long in asserting its intent and destination. And unless these were speedily and clearly defined, such an army would meet with quick and stern resistance. These visible intruders would be 10 soldiers in a child's place as compared with the foe of all our cherished institutions. That foe is not only already in our very midst and secretly and surely seeking the nation's life, but it is so disguised as to deceive the great majority of our people and excite scarcely a protest. Indeed, whenever protest is made or one attempts clearly to define the danger, he is apt to be met with incredulity or be laughed at as an alarmist. So cunningly has the encroachment of the army been concealed and its policy disguised, that the paramount danger consists in the cleverly fostered impression that there is no danger at all. It will be shown herein that nothing else on earth could possibly so strengthen the hands of the enemy or further its designs as the very idea and impression that there is no danger. This is the keynote of the whole policy of aggression and of the determination to put free America into its clutches before it could be aware of what is being done. In order to make the situation clear, it should be distinctly understood and never for a moment forgotten that the Roman Catholic Church, so far as it represents a religion in America with its mass, its memories, and its ceremonies, much of which is conducted in a dead language, is not directly concerned in the foreign invasion herein referred to. Many of its priests and the majority of its laity are not only wholly ignorant of the real issues, but many of them would both deny and repudiate it altogether were they intelligently informed of what is designed and now being consummated. Notwithstanding all this, the whole Catholic following is exploited and made use of to further the design. Papal infallibility and the dogma of blind, unquestioning obedience not only secure this cooperation, but cover the secret designs. The rank and file are never taken into confidence. The leaders in the Crusade realize all this, plan for it, and count on it securely. But there is another and very different feature of Roman Catholicism. That is the hierarchy at Rome. This clerical organization is political to the last degree, with all that the term implies, and religious in no sense whatever. In the union of church and state, it stands for the state. This has long been claimed. The claim has been fought out and is now lost in France, Italy, and other places on the continent. Again, this union of church and state, the very origin and foundation of this government, stands as a protest. Such union having been undermined in the old world and found everywhere there to be on the wane in spite of monarchical government, the Pope playing the baby act as a prisoner in the Vatican to excite sympathy for his waning cause, now turns to free America and takes advantage of every opportunity which freedom here offers secretly, cunningly, and surreptitiously to further his claims here. The Pope, therefore, is not merely the head of the Church and God's vicegerent in all religious matters, but as a foreign despot filled with political ambition, with the College of Cardinals as his ministers of state and the Order of the Jesuits as his secret spies and unscrupulous emissaries. He dictates the campaign of political conquest of America from his political religious throne at Rome. He has declared in so many words his intent to make America Catholic. He has declared that he will make the Catholic religion the religion of the state, to the exclusion of all other religions, and that the state shall have no voice as such in dictating what the policy of the Pope as the one supreme ruler of church and state united shall be. To safeguard this double-headed ambition, if anyone protests against any political feature of the combination, he is at once charged with attacking religion. Religion is made a shield, as it is a disguise under which any and every form of political ambition is fostered and trickery practiced. Any opposition within the church is heresy and blaspheme. Any protest from outside is said to come from atheists who deny Christ and are trying to destroy religion. This has been the tactics in the recent struggle in France, but the disguise and the trick have failed to arrest the march of freedom. It is thus that this Italian autocrat with millions of followers in this country, pledged to blind and unquestionable obedience, carries on his war of conquest right in our midst. And we are either so blind as not to see, or so cowardly as not to protest or oppose it. The distance of this Holy Father from American soul and the glamour of his religious office surround him with a halo of enchantment and an order of sanctity. He allows people from this side the ocean to kiss his ring and prostrate themselves before him as the Vicar of Christ. All the while, his political designs on America are openly declared, and his methods and the political trickery of his emissaries are cunningly concealed. Such a colossal humbug as here faces the 20th century is not new to the world, but it has never had an existence in modern times outside Roman Catholic political clericism and the Greek Church. This crusade for the express purpose of making America Catholic is now and has been for years carried on here in every direction and in many ways. The public press and many of the leading dailies are subsidized, edited, or controlled by threatened boycott to keep every sign of what the enemy is doing from reaching the people. News from Rome, notices of Catholic gatherings, and everything favorable to Rome and its policy gain ready entrance to the secular press. But let some innocent brother Mason offer an article revealing the plotting of the autocrat accompanying the chair of St. Peter, or anything deemed inimical to the interest of the Catholic Crusade in this country, and he will be politely informed by the party on the lookout who has the say that they cannot make use of it. Try and see. I have, having captured the sentinel or the press, and bribed or threatened him into silence so as to prevent the sounding of any alarm. He pipes the praises of clericalism and works solely in its interest. In the city of Chicago alone, $50 million of untaxed real estate is held by the representatives of the church, and it will soon become, if not already, the richest corporation in America, paying no taxes and owned and managed by an Italian living in Rome. What is true in Chicago is rapidly taking place in every other large city in America. Our free public schools are often declared to be a bulwark of our libraries and the hope of the future. The Pope and his representatives are everywhere and at all times the avowed enemies of our free schools, and would replace them with the parochial school, ostensibly in the name of their religion. They called them the ungodly public schools. How does it happen that in the cities of Chicago and Boston, more than 75% of the teachers in the public schools are Catholic? We employ as teachers those who are enemies of the schools themselves. The man who sees no design, no policy of the man in Rome and the Jesuit in this would stumble over the problem of how many 2 and 2 make. Now, to this condition of the secular press and the public schools, add the graft with politicians and the boss, and also the pressure everywhere used to get Catholics into office by an unscrupulous, secret, tireless organization. Add the further fact that this organization is governed by one head, so that it can focus this immense influence instantly at one point, and we get a further picture of the present crusade against America and everything American. There are undoubtedly more than 3 million Catholic voters in this country. The exact number is not here of consequence. The number, however, becomes of consequence when the voters are counted in an election where the Catholics are found almost to a man on one side and voting blindly in the interest of the Catholic Crusade at the direction of the clerics. Our boasted right of suffrage thus becomes the great menace to all other rights of a free people. Add to all this the immigration to this country of over 1 million a year from the lowest classes in Europe, the majority of whom are Catholic, and so helping to increase this army of blind obedience and political peril, to say nothing of the economic problem, the Black Hand, the real genius of the Latin race in the land of the Holy Father. And the picture is still incomplete. It ought to be enough, however, to serve as object lessons, even to an infant in politics and economics. This crusade under the disguise of religion in the name of Jesus and by direct authority of God is political and economical solely and absolutely. There is not only not one iota of true religion in it from beginning to end, but it stands for the reverse. It annuls every principle that by any courtesy could be called religious. It is a direct, specific, cunningly planned political crusade. Its purpose is to transform this country into a dependency of an Italian autocrat who has already sophisticated the religion of Jesus to Egyptian paganism and now lies his unholy hands on free America with the avowed purpose and determination to do for all our liberties here what clericalism has long accomplished for the true Christian religion. Destroy what Jesus stood for, what America stands for today, and then the deluge. The conditions in Russia today were made possible and were actually necessitated by the union of church and state in the person of the Tsar. It is not the political autocrat, but the political religious dictator that has kept Russia from the light of the 20th century. The day of reckoning there has come. Are we Americans so foolish as to invoke the same fate in the light of the 20th century? Are we ready to allow ourselves to be exploited by secrecy, cunning, and fraud in the name of religion? When clericalism is ready to assert and use its power, Freemasonry will be its first point of attack. Masons will not only be compelled to fight for the existence of the order, they may have to fight also for their homes and their lives. In other sections of this book, the reason for this enmity against Freemasonry and Masons is made clear. No intelligent Mason need ever to be deceived by the pretenses of clericalism. Were it made possible to cut this political taproot of Catholicism, Masonry would be content to leave it to its beads, its murmuries, and its superstitions. Christianity, it is not, by any stretch of the imagination, but paganism, pure and simple. But with its political attachment, it is indeed the beast of the apocalypse and an abomination unequaled in the history of man. Each conscious individual in America ought to protest in the name of religion against this crusade and all that it represents. The single claim of clericalism to be the true and only representative of the religion of Jesus, when it is known that clericalism is everything that Jesus was not and sophisticates his whole teaching and ministry, ought to excite an intelligent protest that would shake this old globe. But when behind this veil of hypocrisy there lurks an organized, aggressive, secret, and cunning political ambition that aims to reduce a free people to the despotism of Russia and make possible a Torquemada as a double-headed tyrant on earth and vicegerent of heaven, where is the sufficient protest? The well-fed and complacent American citizen is likely to reply, "It is all bosh. You are an alarmist. It cannot be done." I grant you, my brother, that it cannot be done and stay done. Reference has already been made to the Tsar and the present conditions in Russia. In America today, we have the so-called religious organizations seeking to gain sufficient political power through wealth, office and voters to unite church and state under one head. In Russia, we have the spectacle of a strong autocratic political government, thoroughly entrenched in every way and despotic to the last degree, seizing hold of the religion of the people. The Little Father, as head and dictator of the national church, and the Tsar as the autocrat of the state, were united about the year 1700 by Peter the Great by forbidding the election of Patriarch of Moscow, and then waiting 20 years till the people had learned to do without the Patriarch. A holy synod was appointed by the Tsar, over which he has ever since presided. This synod is merely a figurehead of the Tsar. The awakening people in Russia today means nothing except in just so far and so fast as the people repudiate the Little Father in his so-called religious office. In other words, the key to the situation in Russia, where the first ray of national freedom has resulted in a great awakening among the people, is the separation of church and state. This coming separation is already at the sacrifice and slaughter of thousands of the Russian people. But in spite of the increased cruelties and all the barbarities of despotism, the separation is bound to be accomplished. The people have, at last, found the key to the situation, and nothing can again deceive or enslave them. Cost what it may of the blood of the people, cruelty and persecutions will only intensify the struggle and hasten its consummation, even though it sweeps every Roman off the face of the earth. Here is an object lesson under our very eyes, and in this 20th century, despotism in Russia is powerless to prevent the separation of church and state, upon which alone the progress of freedom and national life in Russia depend. We in America are at the other end of the struggle. A foreign power is doing its utmost to unite church and state in America. The political czar in Russia, seizing religious authority, and with all his power and despotism, he had to wait 20 years for the accomplishment of the union, even in darkest Russia. In America today, the equally autocrat and despotic religious czar or pope is determined by undermining our liberties, amassing wealth, and dictating votes to make America Catholic. And so here unite church and state. Can it be accomplished? No more than it can be longer maintained in Russia. Read the history of Russia for the past 200 years of the rule of this double-headed octopus, and you will have a picture of what it will mean to dislodge this same octopus in America after it openly shows its fangs and reveals its power. Its power and sources of revenue are becoming as thoroughly entrenched under our form of government as they were under despotism in Russia. The titles of the church property that pays no taxes are as legal as any other. The votes of the millions of Catholics dictated by the head of the church and holding the balance of power are legal votes under the law of franchise. The boycott and trickery are concealed and difficult of proof. And when the revolution comes and the fight is on and in the open, what are you going to do about it? Is anyone so stupid or ignorant of history as not to realize what it will mean and what it will cost to dislodge this octopus that has cunningly and secretly wound its tentacles around the life of the nation? Our Civil War was child's play in comparison with this crusade. This impending crisis, when it is once in full sway, these conditions, more than all others combined, are likely to bring in the man on horseback. 2 or 3 decades more of our folly and blindness will put the free schools in all large cities under the control of their avowed enemy, and by votes convert our godless public schools into the parochial schools of His Holiness, an Italian monk who would thereafter administer them from Rome. I would prevent the consummation of all these abominations. I would save too, Protestant and Catholic alike, the sacrifice that Russia is making today for the wickedness and folly of uniting church and state. In America, the power is the people. not in a centralized government. He who is powerful, wise, or cunning enough to control the people or hold the balance of power holds the government. The people are the government. The despot in Rome realizes this, counts on it, and governs himself accordingly in his American policy. It should be impossible for intelligent people to forget that no such policy of consummation can hold with the advance of civilization, or that its profits can ever outweigh its penalties. The Egyptian paganism that is the genius of Rome today overlooks the fiat of destiny. But the people here will have to pay the penalty to the last poor scruple. The laws of light and progress know no absolution nor vicarious atonement. They are as inexorable as fate, and the vicar of Christ cannot stack the cards. The issues are plain. The crusade has been long underway. The enemy is thoroughly entrenched, foraging on the country and taking advantage of every liberty and every opportunity here offered so generously to the world. The leaders and plotters, the real power, are in Rome at a safe distance. They are masked by the stolen mantle of the man of sorrows and cloaked or petticoated in the name of religion. Their secret emissaries avoid publicity on the Jesuitical doctrine that the end justifies the means. They carry on their work of conquest under our very noses and laugh at our folly and supineness. Really, is there no danger? Auricular confession is the strongest kind of a political device. It saves the work of an army of spies. Some penitent and superstitious sinner is certain to confess knowledge of or complicity in the very things the religious boss would like to know about, anticipate, and defeat. Any penitent may thus act, consciously or unconsciously, as a spy, pay for the privilege, and thus bring in revenues instead of a bill of expense. Let any intelligent individual ask himself the question. Suppose the Roman ecclesiastical authority were to drop the name of religion and with its claim of absolute authority in church and state, on earth and in heaven, and its dogma of blind, unquestioning obedience, and the penalties for disobedience, subject to fees or bribes as can be collected or enforced. Would anyone consider the term political as applied to this hierarchy in any sense a misnomer? Can anyone imagine or devise more powerful engines of political despotism than these? And because this political potentate has stolen the mantle of Jesus and adopted the name of religion, is this diabolism either justified or sanctified? No more cunning and damnable fraud has ever been perpetrated upon the children of men than is here seen in sophisticating the religion of Jesus and making it a disguise of ambitious political despotism. Clericalism is nothing that it claims to be. What it really is has been demonstrated in Europe and will become patent to the whole human race before the present crusade in America is completed. Let anyone who doubts or denies any statement or inference herein made read King's Facing the 20th Century and Father Crowley's Parochial Schools. If he is not then convinced, he might as well make obedience to the Pope. The time is near when every man will have to show his true colors. In the crusade that is now so perfectly planned, so cunningly conducted, and so well underway, the most hostile and bitter enmity is directed against Freemasonry. This is not on account of any special activity or opposition coming from Masons here at present. For, as a rule, they are indifferent and complacent to a remarkable degree. The policy of Rome is now, as it has always been, wherever you see a Masonic head, hit it and hit it hard. The Roman hierarchy has been trying its utmost for centuries to destroy Masonry. Read the bulls of the popes directed against the order, and the impotent and hysterical curses fulminated against Masons everywhere and at all times. How many Masons really understand the cause of this policy? To say that it is of no consequence in the face of the tremendous power of the Pope and his minions is simply folly. Very true, Masonry has managed to exist and Masons to multiply in spite of this enmity. Witness the hysterical spasms of the Catholic press over the laying of cornerstones in government edifices. Of course, an emissary of the Pope ought to perform all such functions in this free country. And of course, the president, at this point since the days of Washington, is another of our godless designs against religion. Why is Masonry such a thorn in the side of this crucified Italian vicar, who denotes on playing that he is a prisoner in the Vatican? Jesus, and even the Abbas Effendi, went everywhere among the poor, ate with the publicans and sinners, and was the friend of the lowly and the comrade of poor fishermen. His vicar struts within the confines of his Italian palace, wears costly robes bedecked with jewels, and plays prisoner and despot at the same time. Judah is indeed far from Rome, and Jesus must have been a bungler in the matter of running a religious campaign. On his second coming, he will have the benefit of the example of His Holiness at Rome to guide him. Even the little father at St. Petersburg might make suggestions, exhibit his knot as a persuader to His Holiness, and perhaps suggest a summer excursion through Siberia as an object lesson in converting the world. Ah, Master, what works have been done in thy name? The animus of clericalism against Freemasonry has been fully revealed everywhere else in this work. The genius of Freemasonry and the genius of Rome constitute the most complete antithesis possible to imagine. No such complete denial of every claim set up by clericalism can anywhere else be found as confronted in Freemasonry. Masons stand squarely and on well-defined principles for the precise opposite of clericalism. Catholicism, through its hierarchy, curses and would destroy all other religions and would make the Catholic religion the religion of the state. It claims the right to do this as coming directly from God and bodily declares that it would enforce this right if it had sufficient political power. It expects to get that power by a solid Catholic vote. Masonry stands for religious freedom. It shows equal courtesy to all religions and would discriminate against none. It is herein denied, unqualified, that the hierarchical department of Catholicism has a single element that can by any courtesy be called religious. It is political and of the most despotic and despicable kind of politics. Just so fast as the world is converted to the ethical principles of Freemasonry, brotherly love, relief and truth, and the ethics taught and lived by Jesus, just so fast and so far the world repudiates every principle and every claim and practice of Roman clericalism. The antagonism is here complete and no one knows and realizes it better than the Roman hierarchy. The indifference and supineness of many Masons at this point must mean either ignorance, folly, or cowardice. Every intelligent and loyal Mason ought to accept this challenge of Rome with all that it implies and proceed at once to act upon it. He should do this or frankly confess himself a coward. There is no other alternative for such a Mason. Masonry has back of its principles and inspiring its genius ever principle of progress and a man's higher evolution. It is one with the light of the 20th century. Clericalism is a nightmare of the Dark Ages, the galvanized corpse of the superstitions of all time. It aims at complete despotism, tramples on every right of the individual, and through the bugaboos of ignorance and fear seeks to rise into power by trampling humanity into the dust. It has imprisoned, tortured, and burned its helpless victims who deny its authority whenever it has had the power. It boasts that it never changes its policy, never forgets an injury, never forgives an enemy, and all this in the name of the man who delivered the Sermon on the Mount. What more could Satan himself have done to earn his title of roaring lion? One can well understand and appreciate the exasperation of clericalism over its impotency and failure to destroy Masonry or stay its progress in this 20th century. At present, it only curses, makes faces, and calls names, lies about Masonry, but give it a little more wealth in this country, a few more millions of imported voters, a little stronger control of the public press, a little more political power, generally, and Masons will not be in the least doubt or uncertainty as to the amiss and enmity of Roman clericalism. Clericalism itself has sounded the warning and is repeating it every day, and those who think she is incapable of carrying out her threats had better take a course in juvenile history. How any intelligent, just, and upright Mason can overlook or be indifferent to this clerical crusade here and now going on is difficult to understand. Masons will awaken one day. May it not be too late to save their altars and their Inglesides. Masons have not only fraternal ties, but civic duties and responsibilities, and those in the end are inseparable. The Italian Pope is a figurehead elected by a college of cardinals, and the cardinals as a body is the most arrogant, despotic, and unscrupulous political organization on earth today. Intrigue, plotting, and murder entering into their policy in all time. The Jesuits are the secret service organization of this political ring, particularly menacing to America today because we hear so little about them, knowing their double doctrine, their animus, and their history in the past. A recent gathering of several hundred of the order in the city of Chicago in secret conclave, with little reaching the public as to their designs and deliberations, is as suspicious and menacing to the liberties of the people as though they were known to belong to the mafia. What good thing can this order point to that it has ever done for the liberty or enlightenment of any people under the sun? Plotting against governments and against Rome itself, expelled from nearly every country under the sun, interdicted at times by a pope who found them too bad to be of any good even to him or his government. These emissaries are a menace to America today by their very numbers and their alliance, and these are the ruffians that continually protest against and snarl like wild beasts against Masonry, because it is a secret organization. They even sneak into our lodges and give the lie to their own charge of secrecy. So consistent is this holy order. The principles of Freemasonry are published openly to the world. They are the principles upon which this government was founded and with which this country faces the 20th century. And our long list of heroes and martyrs is largely a list of Freemasons. It will be charged that the present writer is trying to excite hatred against our fellow citizens who are Catholics. So far as any of these are intelligently informed and act consciously with the political gang at Rome, they should be held strictly responsible. Beyond this, they are entitled to the same courtesies, the same liberties, rights, benefits, and governmental protection as all other American citizens, no more, no less. As religiousists, while completely affiliated and under the bond of blind obedience to Rome, they cannot wholly escape the charge of seeking to make the Catholic religion the religion of the state. They are thus hostile to all other religions and hostile alike to any free state. As citizens, they are so far hostile to the state and all its free institutions, which they are thus seeking to destroy. With this animus openly acknowledged by their dictator, they should make haste to repudiate the union of church and state and thus go on record with all good citizens as friends of the genius of this republic. So long as they evade this issue or fail to make their declaration, they will be compelled to stand on the record that has been made for them. The issue is too plain to be sophisticated, denied, or long concealed. The issue between Whig and Troy was not more specific at the foundation of this government. The purpose at this time and at this point is to arouse Masons from the lethargy, indifference, and skepticism in which they sleep and dream that there is no danger. Their numbers are few, but they are select men, good men and true, and while they cannot outnumber or outvote the hordes of Roman clericalism, they can, by their intelligence, courage, and perseverance, hold the balance of power here, as Masons have long held it in France. They can use that power for the good of every citizen of America, Catholic and Protestant alike. No favorites, no special privileges to any, just common citizenship and one common country, with equal rights, equal duties, and equal freedom to all. If this be not at once the ideal of this republic and the genius of Freemasonry, what is it? Are Masons ready to do the work for which Masonry was instituted and has been preserved throughout the ages? Will they stand for their altars and their firesides and hold the ruffians strictly to the imprecations of their own mouths? Will they help to rise, prostrate liberty from the death of superstition, fear, and intolerance, to the living perpendicular of freedom and light, equality and fraternity? Are they prepared to receive the real word and move onward and upward into the light? The fate of this government lies in the principles of ethics, economics, and political freedom upon which it was founded. In the beginning, notice was served on religion, per se, to keep its hands off this government. It was informed that no union of church and state would be tolerated, whether sought by force or fraud. This government was not founded for the glory of God, but for the freedom and betterment of man. When this is secured, the glory of God will rise in gratitude as an anthem that will reach the stars. Let us first learn to be just and then join in the anthem. Masons stand up for sound morals, economic justice, and, at last, for a common fraternity of all mankind. Clericalism would divide the world into saints and sinners, reserving to itself in every case the deciding vote and send to hell or to the dungeon, the rack and the flames, all who refuse to kiss its ring or make obedience before it. The issue is indeed exceedingly plain, so plain indeed that only a knave or a fool need err there within. It is not because of lack of knowledge nor due warning that we wait beneath the furnace blast, the pangs of transformation. If we wait longer, it will be because we are recreant to plain duty. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. If you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.